So Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th Canto, 6th chapter, text 16. Itihasma sakala veda deva brahmana samparam guru bhagavata Rshabhadeva Yas Vishuddha Charitam Iritam Samstam Samasta Duscharita Viharanam Paramamaha Mangalaya Mangalaya Idam Anushya Pachitaya Nusranoti Ash Ashravayati Swaha Swavahito Bhagavatitas Vasudevaya Tato Bhakti Ramayoti Samanuvartate. So Vivek Goswami continues. Lord Rshabhadeva is a master of all the Vedic knowledge. Human beings, demigods, cows, and brahmanas. I have already explained his pure transcendental activities, which will vanquish the sinful activities of all the living entities. This narration of Lord Rishabhdeva's pastimes is a reservoir of all auspicious things. Whoever attentively hears or speaks of them, following in the footsteps of the Acharyas, will certainly attain unalloyed devotional service at the lotus feet of Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of God. Purpose: the teachings of Lord Rishabhdeva are for the people of all the yugas, Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and especially Kali Yuga. His instructions are so powerful that even in this age of Kali, one can attain perfection simply by explaining the instructions, following in the footsteps of the Acharyas, or listening to the instructions with great attention. If one does so, one can attain the platform of pure devotion and service to Lord Vasudeva. The pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees are recorded in the Srimad Bhagavatam, so that those who recite these pastimes and listen to them will become purified. Nityam Bhagavata Seva. As a matter of principle, devotees should read, speak, and hear Srimad Bhagavatam persistently, 24 hours daily if possible. That is the recommendation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kirtaniya Sada Hari. One should either chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra or read Srimad Bhagavatam and thereby try to understand the characteristics and the instructions of the Supreme Lord, who appeared as Lord Rshabhadeva, Lord Kapila, and Lord Krishna. In this way, one can become fully aware of the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of God. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one who knows the transcendental nature of the Lord's birth and activities attains liberation from the material bondage and returns to Godhead. As one hears the messages of the Lord, divine message of the Lord, more and more, one enters into a deeper and deeper understanding of the Supreme. So the more we are hearing about the Lord with attention, with submissiveness, the more one is progressing closer and closer to the Supreme God. The more one is progressing closer and closer to the Supreme God. Simply by hearing. Here in the translation, Rshabhadeva Goswami Maharaj is explaining this simply by hearing the pastime, the characteristics, the instructions of Lord Rshabhadeva. We can be purified from sinful proclivities. And then for Prabhupada, explaining that uh, chanting Hare Krishna, or one should be hearing about the glories of the Lord. That is this divine message. The more and the more we take in, the more and more it spiritualizes, the more and more it spiritualizes our existence. So here Srila Prabhupada stresses on the aspect of hearing or listening very attentively from the Acharyas, following in the line of the Acharyas, and sharing or explaining also in the line of the Acharyas. So when we have the right spirit or the right attitude to hear, then the reveals more. One who hears with the right attitude. So when the message of the Lord is being spoken, it's like the Lord is very near, and we have the right attitude, we can grab onto that, and we have that heart. Uh, we have that heart which is filled with submission and dependence on the Supreme Lord. Then we can grab hold, we can catch hold of the Supreme Lord. That's the point. But the Lord is passing very near. If we are very attentive, and we are we can catch on to the Lord. That's the latch and catch on to the Lord's feet of the Lord. So the Lord is becoming very near. Uh, just like if sometimes say a very important dignitary, we know he's coming in a meeting, and we come in, he's going. A lot of people, thousands of people. So one is very, very attentive. One can go ahead and when the dignitary is passing, one can strike a conversation, one can talk a little. But one is very attentive for that. Very attentive. Similarly, the Lord is coming very near in the form of the Krishna. The Lord comes very near to us. The Lord is passing by. So if we are attentive, then we can catch on to the Lord. Because the Lord is coming very, very near. And therefore, it is being said attentive. And now, that's so attentiveness and submission is being said. And the next, and then this attentiveness and submission develops into service attitude. So one wants to serve the Lord. Therefore, when one wants to share the message of the Lord with others, then that is service. So then the Lord reveals even more. And the Lord reveals even more. Yes, submissive hearing. Submissive hearing means I don't know what is spiritual life. I don't know how to please Krishna. Let me hear from the acharyas and the senior devotees who is Krishna, how to serve Krishna, how to please Krishna. So submissive hearing means one is not one is accepting. One is heart is like a sponge, and one wants to accept whatever Bhagavatam is saying, whatever the devotees are saying, and let me hear it, then let me apply it in my life. That is submission. So lack of submission means one maybe one is hearing critically, one is hearing so that one can refute or counter. No? So that is uh, uh, like one devotee gave Bhagavatam class. Another devotee, later in the day, he went to him and he said, Prabhu, what a third class. You spoke this point, this point, this point, bogus. So this is very bad hearing. It's not submissive hearing like that. So he was, so he heard Sakata, but he heard with the mentality to find faults. Very bad, very not very unfortunate. Submissive hearing is the willingness to follow and accept. That's submissive hearing. Next point. Let's see further. Yes. 617. यस्यामेव कवया आत्मना अविरतं विविधा ब्रजीन संसार परितापोपता यमान अनुसावना स्वपयन्तस्तयैव परया निर्वृत्य हि अपवर्गम् अत्यन्तिकं परमपुरुषार्थम् अपि स्वयम् आश्रितं नो एव ध्रियते भगवता यत्वेन परिशामक्ता सर्वार्थः. Devotees always bathe themselves in devotional service in order to be relieved from the various tribulations of material existence. By doing this, the devotees enjoy spiritual bliss, and liberation personified comes to serve them. Nonetheless, they do not accept that service, even if it is offered. Nonetheless, they do not accept that service, even if it is offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. For the devotees, liberation or mukti is unimportant, because having attained the lotus, the Lord's transcendental loving service, they have attained everything desirable and have transcended all the material desires. Purpose, devotional service unto the Lord is the highest attainment for anyone desiring liberation from the tribulations of material existence. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, 22nd verse. Yam labdva cha param dhavam manyate nadikram tatah. Gaining this, one thinks there is no greater gain. When one attains the service of the Lord, which is not different from the Lord, one does not desire anything material. Mukti means relief from material existence. Bilvamangal Thakur says, Mukti, Mukulitan Jadihi Sevate Swan. For a devotee, Mukti is not a very great achievement. Mukti means being situated in one's constitutional position. The constitutional position of every living being is that of the Lord's servant. Therefore, when a living entity is engaged in the Lord's loving service, he has already attained mukti. Consequently, a devotee does not aspire for mukti, even if it is offered by the Supreme Lord himself. It is just like in the summer season in scorching heat, uh, one would like to keep oneself in an AC room. You feel very nice about it. So I remember in the summer season when we were children, we never would like to go out of the home. Why? Because in the home the cooler will be on, cooler will be on, and I like to go out of that room itself. So the idea is what, and then when one is in that room, it is so nice, feels so nice about it. In the same way, we understand that this material world is filled with tribulations, which are compared to as a scorching heat, because they cause a great amount of misery and irritation. Now, when one uh, uh, surrounds himself or submerges himself in the Krishna Katha, then one is submerging himself in that nectarine cool waters. It's like an AC atmosphere. Now, then such a person is completely abstracted from the scorching or the miserable experience of this world. That's why a person AC will not feel now sweating, perspiring, will not feel irritation, will not feel pain. Will feel very cool. In a similar way, the devotees of the Lord who have absorbed in Krishna Katha, Prabhupada is saying, they can enjoy supreme bliss and the bliss. But the bliss is only existing as long as one is uh, connected. The bliss is only existing as long as one is connected to the Supreme Lord. As one is connected, as long as one is connected to Krishna Katha. What is the meaning of this sentence? When one attends the service of the Lord, what is the meaning of attaining the? Yes. So, okay, so what is the meaning of the statement when one attains the service of the Lord? To get to understand what is pleasing to Krishna, uh, is a rare opportunity. Only to those who connect uh, to the parampara, to the bona fide devotees of the Lord, only they can understand uh, how to serve. So only they can get a service to Krishna. So, so to connect, uh, to offer what we like to Krishna is auspicious, but to offer what Krishna likes is much more intense, like that, and that is rarely obtained. That is what it is said. One who attains this. So, just like say, for example, Rath Yatra is coming up. All of us have got service. How we have got service? Because we are connected to the ISKCON Newton. Because we are serving under Acharya Prabhu and we are connected to ISKCON Newton. We have got service. Uh, no, so we are staying in 863 B block. So have the people staying in 862 got service? No, no. 864 B block, have they got service? No. You know, can they get service? Not so easy. They have to connect. Is it not? They have to connect. So some of us have got service in the DD department, some have service in the security department, some have service in PhD department, cultural program department. Now outside person can come and visit. Is it not? You cannot get opportunity to serve. It's not so easy. It's not so rare. So it requires submission and connection. Then only you are, then only you get it. That's the point. So, so that's the idea. Now, just like the theatre cultural program also, everybody wants to perform the cultural events. But uh, 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 but we are not able to give opportunity. So we could only give opportunity now to the Bhakti Vrikshas, because they themselves have so much need or want or desire, like that. So all sorts of filtered by them. So there are only two or three performances of people who are outside the Bhakti Vriksha preaching devotees, like that, and that is at 3:30 p.m. That is the uh, yeah, least turnover time slot, because we used to start programs at 4:30. Then last year we started the programs at 4 o'clock. This year we're starting the programs at 3:30. You know, like that. 3:30 slots are outside. So can they get 7 o'clock? Yes, they can, but they have to become devotees first. You know, and through the respective bhaktis they can come. Like that. So this is the meaning of attainment of service. It reflects the point that service to Krishna is rare. So here, Srila Sukadeva Goswami is explaining a very beautiful aspect. Now, real tribulations are painful, and they cause excruciating pain. That is a fact. But there is a great role of the living entity also, or a great contribution of the living entity also in perpetuating the kind the misery or the pain which one experiences. So the role is that the living entity or the contribution is that the living entity keeps clinging onto the modes and doesn't take actually away from the modes. You see, uh, any portion of the scriptures we read or we have idea about, it always talks about any portion of the scriptures is always talking about getting out of the modes. And yes, the knowledge is the Vedas are offering, the knowledge the scriptures are offering can take us beyond the modes. One knows that okay, this road can take one beyond the modes. So it is a policy on the part of the living entity not to traverse that. So not to traverse that. And thus the living entity has a great role in perpetuating the misery. So now the point is, just like a vehicle has to be on some road, if it has to move, it cannot move in the air hanging somewhere. So if one wants to be off the road of material tribulations, then one has to very connect to the road, and one has to very much connect or very much come on the road which takes to the spiritual towards spiritual emancipation. So material tribulation cannot be avoided on its own, just like a vehicle cannot have or cannot be in a state of suspension hanging in the air somewhere. It has to be on some road. So if it is material road, then it is material tribulations. And if it is spiritual road, then it is liberation. Because automatically one avoids that is liberation. Uh, so so therefore Prabhupada is making the point that having attained the service to Krishna is the sustainable ultimate end, because in a very sustainable way one is liberated. So because Krishna's shelter is more powerful than Maya's shelter, when one takes Krishna's shelter, then one is more stable, and one can be really steady. Because and as long as one takes Krishna's shelter, because that shelter is more powerful, it can actually supersede the Maya's degrading pull. And thus one can be very stably, steadily situated. That is the point which we can understand. That yes. So therefore, now in fact said that. So now Sukadeva Maharaj is explaining. In fact, that those who are devotees of the Lord want to serve the Lord. Liberation personified is running to serve them. And such devotees are not interested in accepting themselves. They are only interested in pleasing Krishna. That means this entire material affairs is very insignificant in front of spiritual progress. And one embarks on spiritual progress, what material situation one is in is very, very insignificant. When one becomes a devotee of the Lord, everything comes at the beck and call of the devotee. The devotee doesn't need, but the Lord is facilitates in that way. Whereas, without being a devotee of the Lord, uh, to, to handle or to get a hold of that material facilitation is a very challenging task. And people get crushed. But when one generally wants to become devotee of the Lord, all material facilitation very easily follows. They are saying liberation very easily follows. Yes. 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 So service is an opportunity. Yeah. So when we are getting service, it's like internship. If we do it, then we may get eternal placement. Uh, but if we do it carelessly, we will not be recruited in the eternal service the, of the Lord, the eternal mission of the Lord. Yes, our Acharya should serve without consideration. Yes. Let's read further. This is text 18. Rajan Patir Bhavatam Yadu दैवं प्रिया कुलपति क्वच किङ्करो वः अष्टभ्येव मम भगवन् रामकुन्दो मुक्तिं ददाति कञ्चित् स्वनभक्तियोगम्. Sukadeva Goswami continued, I did think the Supreme Person Mukunda is actually the maintainer of all the members of the Pandavas and the Yadu dynasties. He is our spiritual master, worshipable deity, friend, and the director of your activities. To say nothing of this, he sometimes serves your family as a messenger or servant. This means he worked just as ordinary servants do. Those engaged in getting the Lord's favor attain liberation from the Lord very easily. But he does not very easily give the opportunity to render direct service to him. Purport. While instructing Maharaj Parikshit, Sukadeva Goswami thought it wise to encourage the king because the king might be thinking of the glorious position of the various royal dynasties. Especially glorious is the dynasty of Priyavrata, in which the Supreme Lord Rshabhadeva is turning to. Similarly, the family of Uttanapad Maharaj, the father of Guru Maharaj, is also glorious, with the king Prithus taking birth in it. The dynasty of Maharaj Raghu is glorified because that Ramchandra appeared in that family. As far as the Yadu and the Kuru dynasty are concerned, they existed simultaneously, but of the two, the Yadu dynasty was more glorious due to the appearance of Lord Krishna. Parikshit Maharaj might have been thinking that the Kuru dynasty was not so fortunate as the others because the Supreme Lord did not appear in that family. Neither as Krishna, Lord Ramachandra, Lord Rishabdev, or Maharaj Kuru. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj is encouraged by Sukadeva Goswami in this particular verse. The Kuru dynasty may be considered more glorious due to the presence of the devotees like the five Pandavas who rendered unalloyed devotional service. Although Lord Krishna did not appear in the Kuru dynasty, he was so obligated to the Pandavas' devotional service that he acted as a maintainer of the family and the spiritual master of the Pandavas. Although he took birth in the Yadu dynasty, that Krishna was more affectionate to the Pandavas. By his actions, the Lord proved that he was more inclined to the Kuru dynasty than the Yadu dynasty. Indeed, Lord Krishna, indebted to the Pandavas' devotional service, sometimes acted as their messenger, and he guided them through many dangerous situations. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj should not have been saddened because Lord Krishna did not appear in this family. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always inclined towards his pure devotees. And by his action, it is clear that liberation is not very important for the devotees. Lord Krishna very easily gives one liberation. But he does not so easily give one the facility to become a devotee. Muktim dadati karvit bhakti yoga. Directly or indirectly, it is proved that bhakti yoga is the basis for the supreme relationship with the Supreme Lord. It is far superior to liberation. For a pure devotee of the Lord, mukti is automatically attained. Srila Prabhupada explains very beautifully how here the Supreme Lord is encouraging Parikshit Maharaj, who might have been feeling despondent. He is from the Kuru dynasty, the Kuru support. So they use Krishna appeared. The Priyavad Maharaj dynasty, Lord Rshabhadeva is appearing. Tanapad Maharaj dynasty, Prithu Maharaj appeared. So dynasty who appeared. Prabhupada is saying the great devotees of the Lord themselves they appeared. Uh, Secondly, Prabhupada is making the point that although Krishna appeared, the Yadu dynasty, he was more inclined towards the Kurus because of their unalloyed devotion. So therefore, the question which comes is who is fortunate? If the question comes, who is fortunate? Is it the Yadus who are more fortunate? Is it the Kurus who are more fortunate? Is it the living entities, the materialistic living entities who are unfortunate? What is who's fortunate, who's not fortunate? The beautiful understanding what we are getting in this verse to the revelations of Sri Prabhupada, elaborating on the words of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. The nature of the Lord is that the Lord wants to make each one of the living entities fortunate. From the Lord's side, He wants to shower the blessings of fortune on everyone. Because the Lord is all favorable towards every living entity, therefore now the problem of whether one can be fortunate or unfortunate, or whether one will be fortunate, unfortunate, or to what degree one can become fortunate, that that is now that is now only and solely in the hands of the living entity himself or herself. So the living entity connects to the Supreme Lord, then the living entity is fortunate. Because from Krishna's side, he wants to give fortune to everyone. So if someone is ready to take it, it's fortunate. If he is not ready to take it, unfortunate. Like we can only take prasad to people and we can distribute freely. Okay, there is prasad. So now whoever is fortunate, whoever doesn't come, not fortunate. But from our side, we're ready to distribute prasad to anyone. So this is the nature of the Lord. The Lord is wanting to distribute fortune and mercy on anyone. So now, so that means no matter where we have been till now, no matter what we have been doing till now, uh, if we want, we can make our fortune, we can make ourselves fortunate. Everyone can make oneself fortunate by taking shelter of the Lord through the devotees of the Lord. So therefore, a devotee does not remain moaning and crying and brooding over his fallen condition ever. Why? Because the devotee understands that even though I may be presently very unfortunate because of my past sinful activities, but I have the opportunity to become fortunate. So the focus is not, even during the anartha nivritti, the focus is not so much on the obsession is not there on the anarthas. The zoom and focus is on uh, uh, artha pravritti, cultivating the positive attachment, positive service. That's the idea. Let's read further. So now here it is said, oh, but the Lord doesn't give the opportunity of direct devotion or service so easily. Why the Lord doesn't give so easily? Because the living entity doesn't want it. Suppose he gives the opportunity to everyone, people will throw it off and run away because they don't want it. Yeah, they don't want it and because they don't value it. That's why the Lord doesn't give. So the Lord is completely you know, committed towards the favor of towards favoring the living. And that is something which one has to keep in one's mind. To seek further. So therefore, the point is, unless the Lord is very sure of what we want, and and we can reiterate what we want over a long period of time, that is only what we want. Then the Lord can empower us in that direction or help us in that direction. Takes no one is very clear about what one wants. So we may not know what Krishna wants, but we very well know what we want. A devotee very well knows what he or she wants. The sincere devotee will want service to Krishna. And how to serve Krishna, he'll go to the spiritual master or senior devotees. Whereas a materialistic person also very clearly knows what he or she wants. They want sense gratification. So one is very clear about what one wants. But what we may not be clear about is what is pleasing to Krishna, what Krishna wants. And for that reason, we connect. For that reason, we connect to the parampara, so that we can understand what is more and more pleasing to Krishna. So that's the point. So that is the point. Yes. 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 Mm. Yes. Yes. Let's read further. नित्यानुभूतनिकला विनिवृत्ततृष्णा श्रेयसेय तद्रचनया चिरसुप्तबुद्धेः लोकस्य यः करुणाया भयम् आत्मलोकम् आख्यानमो भगवते ऋषभाय तस्मै The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishabdev, was fully aware of his true personality, or fully aware of his true identity. Therefore, he was self sufficient and he did not desire external gratification. There was no need for him to aspire for success since he was complete in itself, in himself. Those who unnecessarily engage in the bodily conceptions and create an atmosphere of materialism are always ignorant of their real self-will truths. Out of his causeless mercy, Lord Rishabdev taught the self's real identity and the goal of life. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who appeared as Lord Rishabdev. So out of his causeless mercy, Lord Rishabdev taught the self's real identity and goal of life. Yeah. But this is a summary of this chapter in which the activities of Lord Rishabdev are described. Being the supreme personality of God himself, Lord Rishabdev is complete in himself. We, the living entities and parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, should follow the instructions of Lord Rishabdev and become self-sufficient. We should not create unnecessary demands due to the bodily conception. When one is self-realized, he is sufficiently satisfied due to being situated in his original spiritual position. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 1854, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nasukati Nakamshati. This is the goal of all the living entities. Even though one may be situated within this material world, he can become fully satisfied and devoid of hankering and expectation. So he can become fully satisfied and devoid of hankering and lamentation simply by following the instructions of the Lord as set forth in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. Satisfaction through self-realization is called Swarupananda. The conditioned soul, eternally sleeping in darkness, does not understand his self-interest. He simply tries to become happy by making material adjustments, but this is impossible. It is therefore said in Srimad Bhagavatam, "Na te vidu swarthagatya Vishnu." Due to gross ignorance, the conditioned soul does not know that his real self-interest is to take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. To try to become happy by adjusting the material atmosphere is a useless endeavor. Indeed, it is impossible. By his personal behavior and instructions, Lord Rishabdev enlightened the conditioned soul and showed him how to become self-sufficient in his spiritual identity. Present the Bhakti Vedanta Puts, the fifth canto, six chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled The Activities of Lord Rishabdev. Material needs are never satisfactory. So one may go on supplying material needs, but we can understand these material needs can never satisfy the self. Was that it? Due to gross ignorance, conditioned soul does not know his self-interest. Yeah, because the spirit soul thinks, because of gross ignorance, the spirit soul thinks that he is this material body. So ignorance is the uh, so basically the soul is ignorant. Ignorant means this spirit doesn't understand. The spirit soul does not understand Krishna. So he is thinking the temporary to be all one. That's gross ignorance. And being in gross ignorance is a willful choice. Willful choice. No, it's a willful choice. Gross ignorance. So it's one's own choice. Krishna is available. Living in it doesn't want to turn to Krishna. Yes. So the Lord is demonstrating by his own example that he doesn't need anything else. So who doesn't need anything else? One who has everything. Uh, and if we connect to somebody who has everything, then we will not so also need nothing. So that is a devotee. So the devotee is connected to the Lord. Lord has everything. So the devotee doesn't need any extra. So if we want to see a devotee accept the point that if I want to grab the mental energy, I cannot grab much. But if I can grab the lotus feet of the Lord, heartily everything will come, whatever is needed. The mental energy will supply whatever is needed very happily. But if I don't serve the Lord, then you have to chase after one small thing. Mental energy will try to snatch it off. So therefore, there is no much meaning to an individual living entity's identity without the presence of Krishna and the connection of Krishna being very strong and being fully specified. There is no point. Yes. 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 Correct. Mm. Yes. 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 Yes, therefore a devotee has to be very clear about the goal and should strive to attain that goal. And that effort and struggle is the very prayer or petition he is one is offering to the Lord to uh, 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 so that is a petition. That's a petition we are offering to the Lord to purify us, provide us service in His eternal entourage. Yes, yes. So we think yes. So one who genuinely appreciates the bhakti understand that I am not qualified and is very grateful for the opportunity for the one has. Uh, yes, genuine bhakti makes us humble. Pseudo bhakti makes us so with that, we begin with chapter 7. Shri Shukavad Bharatastu Mahabhagavato Yada Bhagavat Savani Sala Pari Paripalanaya Bhagavata Nitala Paripalanaya Sanchintitasta Anushasana Paramo Panchajanim Vishwarupa Dehi Me. So the Sukadeva Goswami continued speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. My dear king, Bharat Maharaj was the topmost devotee. Following the orders of his father, who had already decided to install him on the throne, he began to rule the earth accordingly. When Maharaj Bharat ruled the entire globe, he followed the orders of his father and married Panchajani, the daughter of Vishnu. तस्यां आत्मजं कार्ष्येन रूपम् आत्मनः पञ्चजानयम् आस भूतादेव भूतसूक्ष्मानि समासेन राष्ट्रभृतं सुदर्शनम् अवारणं धूम्रकेतुमिति. Just as the false ego creates the subtle sense objects, Maharaj Bharat created five sons in the womb of Panchjani, his wife. These sons were named Sumati, Rashtrabhritya, Sudarshan, Avaran, and Dhumraketu. Yeah, the false ego creates subtle sense objects. Yes. Yeah, so the point is that if one is devotee of the Lord, uh, uh, then the subtle senses don't have much function. It is the false ego which creates the subtle sense objects. So subtle senses focus on uh, the food for subtle senses comes from false ego, because the food for the subtle senses, the mind intelligence, uh, is speculative notions of sense gratification, which come from false ego. So only when the living entity identifies with the matter, then only that lust comes. Otherwise, that doesn't come. When one doesn't identify with that matter, then where from the material desire will grow up. Material desire comes only when one identifies with matter. When one has nothing to give and take with matter, one simply uses matter in service of Krishna, then one will not get any material desire. So material desire is coming because of material consciousness. Material consciousness, the hallmark, the pivot, the foundation, the root of material consciousness. The hallmark, the pivot, the root, foundation of material consciousness is false ego. So only because false ego is there and it is being fed, therefore the material consciousness is, material desires are coming, material entanglement is there. So this false ego is dissolved. One has the true ego that I'm Krishna's servant, then there is no material desire. Yeah. Yes. 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 That is the point. Yes. Correct. Yes. Yes. If you remember I'm servant of Krishna, then I want to serve Krishna. So material desire will not come. So mind intelligence will not get their food. Yes. Yes. That's true. Ajana नमैताद्वर्षं भारतम् इति यदा आराभ्य उपदिशन्ति. Translation: formerly this planet was known as Ajanabharsha, but since Maharaj Bharat reigned, it has become known as Bharatvarsha. This planet was formerly known as Ajanabha because of the reign of King Nabhi. After Bharat Maharaj ruled the planet, it became celebrated as Bharat Varsha. Yeah, next four. सब बहुगन महीपति पित्र पिता महवा गुरु वात्सलतया स्वेश कर्मा वर्तामनः प्रजा स्वधर्मम् अनुवर्तामनः परया पालया. Maharaj Bharat was a very learned and experienced king on this earth. He perfectly ruled the citizens, being himself engaged in his own respective duties. Maharaj Bharat was as affectionate to the children as his father and grandfather had been, keeping them engaged in their occupation duties. Yes. Keeping them engaged in their occupation duties, he ruled the earth. It is most important that the chief executive rule the citizens by keeping them fully engaged in their respective occupational duties. Some of the citizens were Brahmanas, some were Kshatriyas, and some were Vaishyas and Shudras. It is the duty of the government to see that the citizens act according to these material divisions for their spiritual advancement. No one should remain unemployed and unoccupied in any way. One must work as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra on the material path. And on the spiritual path, everyone should act as a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. Although formerly the government of the monarchy, all the kings were very affectionate towards the citizens and they strictly kept them engaged in their respective duties. Therefore, society was very smoothly conducted. Yes. So the point is how to understand whatever level we are able to progress. The whatever we have, we offer to Krishna. When what we have, we offer to Krishna. Krishna will keep giving directions what further to offer. That is the point. So we follow one direction, we'll be given the next direction. We follow that direction, and this way we keep on following the devotees. Uh, uh, we can get opportunity to direct service to Krishna also. That is the point. Like Guru Maharaj followed Mother Suniti, he knew that was not half instruction, it is not full instruction, part instruction. Go forest, search for Lord Vishnu, do tapasya for Lord Vishnu. So he didn't know anything, but he went to the forest. So he followed a little bit, Krishna sent Arjuna for further enlightenment. So this is the point. So we follow a little, will be no, the Lord will reveal a little more. We follow that little more, the Lord will reveal a little more. That is the point. Yes. 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 In Krishna consciousness, nothing is an hindrance. No previous bad samskara or whatever, Gotra, Varna, nothing is an hindrance. Everybody can become a devotee's part. Everybody can. Maharaj tried. Hmm. Yes, because Krishna is eager that every living entity goes to the spiritual world. Therefore, the Lord is always endeavoring in favor of the living entity. The Lord is always endeavoring that the living entity somehow or the other comes to him. And so the mercy is stored for us. We just have to go and claim. That's all. The mercy is stored for us. We just have to go and get it. It's available for us. Hmm. Correct. Yes. Yes. It's very forgiving. Yes. Yes. The one who is humble and submissive can receive a lot of service, can receive a lot of mercy. Hmm. Yes. What we are getting today is bestowed upon us. Yes. And uh, because the Lord is eager. Therefore, materially, no one can bring materially no one can bring much change. But spiritual advancement is completely in our hands. Material advancement may not be in our hands. It is dependent on karma. Who gets how much is able to save, whose family, how much disease, how much fights, how much court cases. That is not decided by the person. That is karma. So therefore, materially, no matter how much one endeavors, one cannot get beyond beyond the allotment of karma. But spiritual advancement completely in our hands. Material progress not at all in our hands. Not at all. So therefore, one spiritual progress completely in our hands. Therefore, a devotee works hard for spiritual advancement. Yes, devotee works hard for. Yes, yes. So we should not ever endeavor material happiness because material happiness is like usually comes up on its own accord. Happiness also comes on its own. So whatever is distant, that much only will get. We will not get more than that. So therefore, better perform, focus, enthusiastic spiritual endeavors. Yes, 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 yes. Next slide. Ije cha bhagavantam yajnakato रूपम क्रतुभेर उच्चपचहे श्रद्धाया हृत अग्निहोत्र दर्शन पूर्णमाश्चातुर्माश पशुतो मनः प्रकृति विक्त्रीभीर अनुसावनम चतुर्होत्र विधीना. With great faith, King Bharat performed various kinds of sacrifice. He performed the sacrifice known as Agnihotra, Darsha, Purnamasa, Chaturmasa, Pashu Yagna. There is a heart sacrifice. Somayagya, there are kind of beverages offered. Sometimes the sacrifices are performed completely and sometimes partially. In any case, in all the sacrifices, the regulations of Chatur Hutra were strictly followed. In this way, Bharat Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But animals like horses and cows were offered in sacrifice to test the proper execution of the sacrifice. Otherwise, there was no purpose in killing the animal. Actually, the animal was offered in the sacrificial fire to get a rejuvenated life. Generally, an old animal was sacrificed in the fire, and it would come out again in a youthful body. Some of the rituals, however, did not require animal sacrifice. In the present days, animal sacrifices are forbidden. As stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ashwamedham Gavalambam Sannyasam Par Prakrutam Devarena Sutotpatim Kalau Panchavivardhaye. In this age of Kali, five acts are forbidden: the offering of horse in a sacrifice, the offering of cow in a sacrifice, the acceptance of the order of sannyas, the offering of oblations of flesh to the forefathers, and a man's begetting children in his brother's wife. So such sacrifices are impossible in this age due to the scarcity of expert Brahman or Ritvijaha who are able to take the responsibility. In the absence of this, the Sankirtan Yajna is recommended. Yajna Sankirtana Praye Jayanti Sumedasana. After all, sacrifices are executed to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yagnartha karma. Such activities should be carried out for the Supreme Lord's pleasure. In the age of Kali, the Supreme Lord in the incarnation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should be worshipped with his associates by the performance of Sankirtan Yajna, the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This process is accepted by the intelligent men. Yajna Sankirtana Praye Jayanti Sumedasana. The word Sumedasana refers to an intelligent man who possesses very good brain substance. So let us stop here for today. Uh, it should not be taken capriciously. Uh, so who is qualified to take sannyas? One who doesn't want to take sannyas. One who doesn't want to take sannyas. He is qualified to take sannyas. So one should not take sannyas for the sake of getting that position. Nobody is qualified. Uh, Nobody is qualified to take sannyas. That is the point. So therefore, one should not aim that, oh, I'll become a sannyasi, I'll become a guru, I'll become a GVC. No? That aim itself is a material aim which will degrade and hamper our spiritual life. So, yes. So who can be a guru who doesn't want to be a guru? One is hankering, oh, I need not disciples. I want that for I want to do. He's not qualified. Not qualified. Like that. So therefore, this ashram, sacred ashram, therefore one should not have. That is why Prabhupada is telling that all these five items, why they are prohibited? Because there is nobody who is qualified to take that. You know? So that's the point. So that is the point. Yeah. So therefore, uh, uh, therefore, one can renounce the word, no problem. Renunciation is compulsory for everyone because unless you renounce the material things sooner or later, one can not attain attachment to Krishna. So one can renounce, no problem. Whether one renounces at the stage of brahmacharya or one renounces at the stage of vanaprastha, uh, uh, everyone is encouraged to renounce the material affairs. Whether one announces at 25 or one announces at 65 or 55, the renunciation is encouraged. But sannyas is not encouraged. So that means that we should not aim for sannyas. Especially, yes, yes, yes. From the platform of sannyas, one should not hanker for. One should not hanker for. One should not be because sannyas is sacred ashram. Nobody is qualified to take sannyas in this age, and therefore only a person who very genuinely thinks himself unqualified and not, but whom devotees forcibly make him into sannyasi can take sannyas. Others should not. That's the whole point. Yeah, offering of a goat is not mentioned here because uh, yeah. So this is basically they are mentioning very so what is mentioned here is quite standard and sacred offerings, like that. So this is basically if it is not mentioned means it is substandard. So the offering of gold and all that is mentioned in the Tamaguni Puranas. Tamaguna Puranas, Dumanakali and all that. No? This is what we are talking here is much more sacred standard sacrifice. So they are not actually offering flesh to the Lord. They are not offering flesh for eating. They are actually tasting an old animal by offering sacrifice, and they are actually that test also these priests of Uttara Chatur and all. They are actually giving a new brand new life to that next to that person. So in one way, it's a help, not damage. But Tamaguni, worship and allowance is a damage. It's a damage to the poor animal who butchered. It's a damage to the person who also ate because he will be butchered in future. So yes. So let us stop here. Yes. Yeah. So that's true. And then Bhagavatam ki, Prabhupada ki, and Chidigo. Yes.